Well, I think science and religion are certainly not the same kind of thing. And why should everything in the world be the same kind of thing? If we made everything the same, we wouldn't have history, we wouldn't have art, we wouldn't have literature. Religion is a distinct kind of thing. Most of science today, using physics as a paradigm, most of science today is about measurement, accurate measurement, and relating things in the world through quantitative laws. Religion, by and large, is mostly about persons and their relationship to the divine. So most of the time, they're working in different aspects of reality. So there's no particular reason for there to be a conflict. Now, sometimes there are conflicts over accidental matters, what we might call details at the fringes. But most of the time, they deal with different kinds of things. So there's no inherent reason why there should be a conflict. But what I do think is that at its best, the same kind of desires operate in religion as operate in certain areas of science, particularly in physics, because you want to know the reasons for things, you want to know the ultimate causes for things, how we came to be the way we are. And that's something that's a kind of question that we look for in physics, but also in religion at its best as well. So there is a certain shared desire of becoming fully human, of knowing the answers to ultimate questions, which is shared, in fact, by the religious mind and the scientific mind. I think the main obstacles to a dialogue between science and religion are ignorance of history, and ignorance of philosophy. Ignorance of history can be seen in the fact that there are often simplistic narratives and popular books which don't tell the full story. The history of the relationship of science and religion is complicated. Simplistic narratives are bad history. So that's one obstacle. But also in philosophy as well. We still have the shadow of what used to be called of positivism. And about 50 years ago, this was very popular in universities. Positivism really more or less suggests that the only valid knowledge is the knowledge that comes from a scientific experiment. The only valid knowledge. Now, of course, that's not true. Personal knowledge doesn't come from scientific experiments. Literature doesn't come from scientific experiments. History doesn't. You have all these areas of human activity which truly generate knowledge, but they're not from measuring things under experimental conditions. But we still have the shadow of positivism. And if people become positivist, then it's very hard to think that there's any knowledge apart from what we have from measurements in a laboratory. And so there's a general philosophical problem. Now, in philosophy, that situation is changing. In academic philosophy, that's changing. There's been a revitalization of the philosophy of religion, partly because of a rejection of positivism and an acceptance that there are many ways in which we can be said to know things, many kinds of intellectual virtues, which are still intellectually rigorous. But this fact has not filtered to all areas of the academy, and it's not filtered out to all of society. So you often hear people saying, science says that, as if science is one thing and is the source of all knowledge. But that's not even true in the scientific world. It depends upon philosophy as well, and there are many kinds of sciences. So I think there's a greater appreciation today of a diversity of knowledge and a diversity of research. But that revolution is incomplete at the moment.